Most sports coaches are trapped at $7K a month, feeling like they can't get ahead. Mike was in the same boat, making $5K a month, working 60-hour weeks. Just 90 days later, Mike was making $12,500 per month, working just 25 hours a week. He didn't get better at coaching. He didn't start dipping his face in sparkling water, and he didn't even have a crazy morning routine. He fixed 3 fatal flaws that keep 78% of sports coaches under $7K a month. In this video, I'll expose these flaws and show you exactly how to fix them. You'll discover why being great at your sport is actually keeping you broke, and the exact model that sports coaches are using to double, triple, or even quadruple their income without adding any more in-person sessions. The first flaw that sports coaches make is trading their time for money. Now, when it comes to your weekly schedule, let's be honest, you only have so many hours per week. And when you're training athletes in high school, there's even fewer hours for you to actually make money. If an athlete gets out of school at, let's say, 3 o'clock, the earliest you can start training them is at 3:30. And then assuming you don't want to totally hate your life, you probably want to be done coaching at, let's say, 9 p.m. at the absolute latest. And so when you do that math of only having, let's say, 5.5 hours per day to coach, you are going to be forever limited with how much money you can make. And then that also factors in people canceling, no-showing, or rescheduling, where you could have made money during that hour, but the fact that nobody showed up at that specific time, you're now losing out on income. And so if you're a smart coach and you're charging at least $100 per hour for your time, in a great world, you're making anywhere from, let's say, $2,000 a week to $3,000 a week if you're absolutely killing it. But you and I both know that your schedule is never going to be 100% full. You're never going to have 100% show rate, and not to mention facility fees, driving back and forth from the facility to your house, spending money on gas, equipment, and all these other hidden expenses that you and I both know are absolutely killing your business. So mathematically, if you're a smart coach and you're doing a great job, the most amount of money that you could ever make with the in-person model is somewhere around 6 to 8K a month if you're lucky. So let's go back to Mike for a second. Mike was giving about 28 to 30 in-person sessions a week, charging $50 an hour. And when you do the math, I mean, it's pretty decent money, but the problem is that after taxes, facility fees, travel expenses, and everything else that goes into being an in-person coach, he's probably only pocketing about $4,800 a month, not to mention the 15 to 20 hours of travel, answering parent questions, setting up the schedule, no-shows, all this different stuff that he's not even getting paid for. And so when we actually broke down the math, he was really only making about $25 per hour. In short, Mike was stuck, and we knew we had to make a shift not only in his business, but in his mindset. So that leads me into the second flaw, which is being stuck in the mindset of being a coach rather than an entrepreneur. So if you're like most other sports coaches, you've been a sports person your entire life, and sports have pretty much been your identity from the time that you could walk. You were probably better than everybody else at every single thing that you ever did, whether it's the sport that you currently coach right now or every other sport that you tried, and you were just an athlete. And then when your career is over, you might have went through a little bit of an identity crisis and found a new passion in coaching. And that's awesome. Absolutely should take pride in your ability to coach athletes. But the problem is that most coaches have it totally backwards, that they think that their ability to be the best coach in the entire world is going to have a direct impact on how much money they make. And as you're probably figuring out in real time right now, that's not true. In order to make more money as a coach, you have to start thinking like a business owner. You have to start understanding, I need to get more people interested in what I do. I need to charge what I'm actually worth, and then create a product or a program or a package that people are going to be willing to pay a high ticket price, not for my time, but for the value that I can provide. You see, your entire life, you've been thinking about how you can trade your time and then get something back for it. But in the business world, people are going to pay for results. And until you make the mindset shift that you are no longer a coach and that you are a business owner, you're going to stay stuck trading your time for money for the rest of your life, sitting there wondering why you can't ever make more money when you've never actually done, number one, the math to actually make more money, or number two, done anything to create a better product or a better service so that you can charge more money without it relying directly on your time. And that is where the entrepreneurial mindset shift needs to come in. You need to start identifying as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, if you want to make that type of money. The longer you identify as a coach, you will put a psychological cap on what level of income you can make, because look at your high school coach. How much money did they make? Look at the assistant coaches in the major leagues. How much money did they make? Look at the assistant coaches or even the head coaches in professional sports or college sports. Unless you're at the absolute pinnacle, you're really not making next level money, because most coaches think that they need an organization and somebody else to come in and save them, rather than taking control over their own career and creating value for other people. Because at the end of the day, how much money you make is just a way to keep score of the amount of value that you are providing to the world. So if you're not making the amount of money that you want to make right now, it's because you don't know how to provide more value to the world, okay? And that is quantified based on how much you can help one individual person, as well as how many different people you can help at that high level. Now, let's go back to Mike for a second. So when Mike first came to me, he was giving me a ton of pushback on increasing his prices and thinking more like a business owner rather than a coach, because his rationale was that he loved coaching so much and he wanted to provide as much value to the entire, population of his city as he could. So he didn't want to charge more money and he wanted to continue to work these hours without shifting his business model, because he identified as somebody who, loved to give back to the game. And it wasn't until he actually missed his son's championship game in high school where they won the state championship when he finally realized that his entire business model was flawed, because he literally could not miss these lessons if he wanted to continue to make the money that he needed to make in order to provide for his family. And, after seeing his son win this championship and he wasn't there, it finally clicked to him that he was putting other people before his own life. And because of that, he wasn't able to provide the way that he needed to be and show up for the people most important in his life. And that is when he finally made the mental shift and made a pivot in his business that would change his life forever. And that brings us to the third flaw, which is solely relying on in-person lessons for income. And the reason why that's a problem is because you're always trading your time for money. You can never grow an actual business. And if you don't show up or your athlete doesn't show up, you don't get paid, which means that you end up missing out on everything else that life has to offer, strictly because you love what you do and you would do it for free. Hopefully that doesn't hurt too much when I point it out. But the reality is that in 2025, the entire world is moving online and people are looking for online options. And so the best thing that an in-person sports coach can do right now is add a hybrid option where they add an online component to their in-person business, as well as expand their reach outside of their local area. So with the hybrid model, a basic breakdown of the way it goes is you train your athletes once a week in person and then provide 6 days a week of coaching. And what this allows you to do is provide more value to your athletes. When you provide more value to somebody, you can charge more money. Because you're providing more value with the hybrid model, your athletes are going to get better results. And that is what people will be willing to pay more money for. Now, once you have a hybrid option in place, you can then take the basic structure of your hybrid option and expand it outside of your local area, because there are athletes all over the country right now who are your exact ideal type of athlete that you could help a tremendous amount, but they don't have access to people like you. And so by using social media and the internet, we not only can get in front of those types of people, but we can build real relationships with them and give them a program that they can follow day by day to actually take the necessary steps to achieve their goals. So let's take it back to our boy Mike. When we implemented the hybrid coaching model with Mike, his entire life changed. So what we first did is we helped him develop his hybrid program to give to his in-person athletes already. And so he was able to build a rock solid hybrid program that delivered insane results, better results than he's ever delivered strictly with his one-on-one in-person lessons. And then we took those results that he was getting from his hybrid program and marketed those results on social media to then attract athletes from all over the country. And now Mike is not only running a successful hybrid coaching business, he has a successful strictly remote business that is allowing him to train way more athletes, make way more money, and now he has the time freedom to spend with his family and do the things that he really loves to do. But at the same time, he's still providing value to his athletes and giving in-person lessons on his own terms, but he's no longer relying on it, which means that he finally has the true freedom that he's always been searching for. And even after hearing that story of Mike, you might be sitting there thinking, Nick, I don't know if this is gonna work for me. And after working with over 200 coaches across a bunch of different sports, you think I haven't heard that before. So let me put you on some game here really quick. Online training is the wave of the future. And with modern day technology, you can actually create a super beneficial program to your athletes that provides them with a way better experience and gets them way better results. And when you're getting way better results, you're gonna attract better athletes, which therefore means better marketing, which therefore means more athletes, which therefore means more money. And the benefit of the technology is you now can take on more athletes because the technology does all the heavy lifting for you. You might even be thinking that parents aren't going to pay for any sort of online training. And look, we hear that all the time, but with results-based pricing and you're making your program about the outcome that the athlete can get and the extensive support that you can provide with the online program, parents are more than willing to pay higher prices for an online program. Just like Jordan, who literally collected a $6,000 paid in full for his online coaching program, or Will, who collected a $3,900 paid in full as a 21-year-old college football player. And the results go on and on and on. We've seen hundreds of coaches charge over $3,000 for their online training programs. And you might even be thinking, Nick, this all sounds great, but I'm a coach, I'm not a tech guy. And look, I was a baseball player my entire life. I used to be a coach. I'm not a tech guy either. That's exactly why modern day technology is our best friend, because this modern day technology is super simple, super easy to use, and there are step-by-step guides that you can follow to use these software to the best of their ability and get the most out of it without sacrificing the results of your athletes. And you don't have to learn all these crazy tech skills to actually make it happen. So let's tie this all back to our boy, Mike. Mike had all the same concerns that you probably do right now. Mike was convinced that online training would never be as good as his in-person training. But after he got on an online platform and developed a legitimate program, his athletes are actually getting better results than they've ever got. And not to mention, Mike was 100% convicted that parents would never pay anything close to $3,000. And now he charges 2 payments of $2,700 or 1 payment of just $4,500 for his 6-month training program. And the way that he can do it is because his program is so good and his results with his athletes are incredible. And this is all despite the fact that Mike was convinced that as a tech dinosaur, self-proclaimed, he was never going to figure it out. And now he's got a smooth running online training program, not to mention making over $20,000 per month, training 65 athletes from all over the country. Mike's story is not unique. I've helped hundreds of coaches across every sport imaginable make this same transformation. They all face the exact same challenges you're facing right now. They all hit that same ceiling. Only difference is they made the decision to change their approach. Now they're making 10, 15, even 20K plus per month, working fewer hours and creating greater impact than they ever have before. The question isn't whether this approach works. The results speak for themselves. The question is whether you're willing to make the shift from struggling coach to thriving business owner. If you're serious about breaking through your income ceiling, I've created a free masterclass that you can go ahead and click the link in the description and watch it for free on the next page. Thanks for watching. See you next time.